Let me begin by thanking Jay and Twin City Business, not just for these awards, but for the many ways in which they recognize leadership in this community that the other rest of us might not know, except for the work that they do. So thank you very much. Speaking of leadership, I was in Washington, D.C. today. That was my laugh line. Mark has all the rest of them. I guess you know all too well that your elected representatives are doing health reform. And I was in a meeting today with some of my former colleagues from the Senate, and we were going through the health reform bill, and I was complaining about its complexity. And one of them turned to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "You know, Dave, when you want something in the worst possible way, that's often the way you get it." In his latest book, or in the latest book, on the financial crises of 2008, Andrew Ross Sorkin of the New York Times tells us that the financial institutions involved were run by individuals who thought of themselves as too big to fail. John Stout reminded us earlier why Minnesotans are different. In 1934, in the depths of the Depression, the year I was born, a young Michigan boy walked into Harvey Fuller's office in downtown St. Paul. Elmer L. Anderson said he wanted a job selling adhesives. He got the job, and he became one of the best examples of a Minnesota corporate executive and a civic influence. Elmer was a mentor to me, especially in the role business and the corporation plays in creating opportunity, value, and social responsibility. He never thought himself too big to fail, and he always succeeded beyond our expectations. So it is an honor to be asked to introduce Mark Sheffert as the winner of this year's Outstanding Director Lifetime Achievement Award. Mark has become the kind of mentor to me and to many that Elmer Anderson was. Everyone here knows, who knows Mark, knows that he has served this community as a business executive in finance and insurance, and as a consulting expert in crisis management and strategic planning, and as a director of 42 corporations, for and not-for-profit, and he's been board chair of at least half of those, and I think it's that record, as you pointed out, Jay, the 20, that is so important to all of us who serve with him on boards. The Twin City Business article that he wrote this month, called Welcome Back Humility, is pure Elmer Anderson, and Retha, you know what I'm talking about, especially. But so are many other insights that Mark Sheffert shares with us through this and his own monthly medium. Those of us who have served as directors on corporate boards that he chairs knows this isn't marketing. This is Mark Sheffert 101. My wife Susan, who's here tonight too, whose University of Minnesota Medical Technology Policy class Mark has taught, tells me the very same thing. And by the way, she's also a member of the NACD. And the executives, some of whom are here tonight, who run these companies will swear by Mark and his governance. It is what we Minnesotans want out of our business and our civic leaders. It's what we want them to be. Constructive critics of perceived wisdom, of popular trends, and of everybody does it ethics. People who set standards of accountability of institutions and responsibility of leaders. People who got up here like Mac Lewis did just a little bit ago and talked to you about what he had to say to all of us. Mark Sheffert is so committed to his work for all of us that he could write opinion pieces for the New York Times. And I swear he did, Tuesday of this week. Came out under the byline of David Brooks, who observed for all of us, and I'll quote, "Every action can be done in a spirit of humility or in a spirit of overconfidence. end quote. Whether it is times of economic crises that overconfidence and self-deception have visited on this country, or times of boom, Mark Sheffert has always counseled us to humility and to stretching, but not overreaching our abilities. It's a great honor for me to be able to honor his life and to share with you in his achievements with this award. Thank you.
I now know who will do my eulogy. Well, thanks, David, for those heartwarming and wonderful introduction, those kind and somewhat accurate comments. Dave is a great friend and a caring humanitarian and a great asset to our community, and sometimes I don't think we realize how much of an asset he is, and just a great patriot and a great asset to our country, and we're awfully lucky to have him with us in Minnesota. Well, first, I'm going to take a little different twist than some of the other honorees, and congratulations to the others who were received awards this evening. And I want to start by thanking the selection committee for their great wisdom and impeccable choice for this extraordinary award. Seriously, though, I want to also thank the National Association of Corporate Directors and Twin City Business and Vance Opperman and Bert Cohen and Jay Novak worked tirelessly, as Dave said, to educate us in the business community about leadership and to let us know who's doing what. And their sponsorship and hosting this event is just one of the many things they do. And I want to thank them for their commitment to responsible corporate governance by continuing to sponsor this event each year. I also want to say that I'm a bit overwhelmed by the number of fellow directors and company officers and past and present associates of our firm and our dear friends, my dear friends, and who attended this evening's event. You truly made this this recognition a memorable occasion. I feel blessed that most of my loving family and extended family is here to celebrate this award. I'm only missing my 5 1/2 grandchildren, but it's okay because at this point they'd all be pointing and yelling, "Papa, Papa, what Papa doing?" Somehow they'd figure it out, though. I'd like to recognize a great patriot this evening and moral leader. My brother-in-law, Pastor Joel Severson, is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, and he recently returned from a year-long tour of duty in Iraq. I'd like you to join me in thanking Joel and his wife, Bev, for their selfless service to our great nation. Joel? Joel came back from Iraq. The temperature is just a little different there than it is here. And so I took Joel to a Minnesota Gophers game. And you have never in your entire life seen anybody that was wrapped in as many blankets, headgear, socks, shoes as Joel was, and he still was absolutely freezing. So, well, I realize it's late, and that I'm all that stands between you and Thursday night football or Dancing with the Stars. So, but I've waited a lifetime for this award. And the right to this pulpit. So just please stick with me for a few minutes, and then we can all stampede out of here, okay? Well, let me just say that first of all, I'm deeply honored and just absolutely thrilled to be the recipient of this Lifetime Achievement Award. However, I'm sad to say that my exuberance is tempered by my acute concern that in my lifetime, I could see the collapse of capitalism in America because of an epidemic of corporate corruption, greed, and failed leadership that has permeated nearly every aspect of our business and our society today. And the harsh reality is that through our own actions and inactions, we are complicit in this morphing of capitalism. Now, some of you may say or wonder whether I'm overstating the case and whether we really have a moral and leadership crisis in our country. And I would say to you, just listen to a few of these recent headlines from various national publications, and you decide. And let me just roll through just a few of these. Former AIG chief to pay $15 million in SEC case. Madoff CFO pleads guilty to fraud. Judge approves $925 million United Health class action settlement. Former Kmart CEO asks judge to throw out verdict. Former World Health Alternative CEO charged in tax evasion scheme. Former Monster COO gets 2-year jail sentence in options case. Former General Re executive faces sentencing for fraud. CEO of National Lampoon pleads guilty to conspiracy. Former hedge fund COO sentenced to prison for theft. Former Enron Internet chief sentenced to 16 months in prison. Retired Boeing executive pleads guilty in UBS tax case, and hedge fund chief charged with huge insider trading scheme. I just read 12 headlines from 46, and these 46 headlines from national publications are 2 months, only 2 months of headlines. So every day, I know that, let me just get back here where I'm at here. Practically every day, we hear about someone in a leadership position trying to better his or her own finances at the expense of others. And as a result, this corruption and greed from Main Street to Wall Street, our leaders are quickly losing the right to be called leader. Today, many people are asking, where were the corporate directors of these companies? What went wrong and what happened to business ethics, as though there is a separate set of standards and behavior that should apply to businesses. And while it's true that our businesses are rife with ethical lapses and failed leadership, it's also true that these are symptoms of a much larger problem that we have in society. And that transcend the business community. So if we're to reform businesses, we need to begin with the reformation of where we were all formed, namely in our homes, our schools, our communities, and the religious and cultural organizations that touch our youth. However, the past 40 to 50 years have not been particularly good. They've been difficult ones for these traditional sources of core values in our lives. Our families are relentlessly torn apart by divorce, abuse, incest, and teenage pregnancies. Our educational system remains woefully deficient and rapidly falling behind the rest of the world. Our churches are fractured because of pedophilic priests, pro-life, pro-choice issues, and gay marriages. And our inner cities are gang-dominated war zones. And on an individual level, greed and power have become our new American idol, as we all live and die in a relentless pursuit of the almighty dollar. Extravagance is envied and sought after, and we compete with each other over who has the biggest and the best as we chase what we perceive to be happiness and power. Why then are we so shocked, so surprised, when some business leaders abuse the system to attain that wealth, to experience that extravagance, to achieve that power? My point is this: the business community cannot fix the corruption, greed, and failed leadership issues that exist in our businesses today until we begin to fix the seed factory. And the seed factory is our society. That's where we grow and produce our corporate executives. So what does this have to do with us as directors, you ask? Well, As leaders in business and in our communities, it has everything to do with us. I have always believed that serving as a director is a higher calling to stewardship that transcends the specific business companies that we represent. In many respects, we are no different than a minister, a priest, or a rabbi who has a higher calling that transcends the specific religion they represent. As directors, society has granted us the stewardship of its assets, namely its capital, its human resources, and its trust and well-being. In turn, we have the duty and the responsibility for prudently converting these assets into needed products and services, employment for our populace, and the betterment of our society. You see, it is society that has called us to be stewards of its assets, and it is society that grants us the right to be called leaders. If, however, we don't believe this principle in our heart of hearts and don't serve with it as our moral compass, then I fear that power-hungry government leaders will rise up like sleeping giants to wield their swords of regulation and take this stewardship away from us. Why? Because they see it as their higher calling to protect society's assets if we don't. And if that happens, the spirit of innovation that fuels the American dream, I believe, will be doomed forever. So with the many ethical and leadership issues facing us as directors and leaders, what can we do to advance the reformation of businesses and society? And this is a subject that could take days or even months, but let me just suggest a few. When I was a kid, and I'll trump South Dakota, in Lancaster County, Nebraska, we had a cop on the street corner in my neighborhood. His job was to maintain social order and to protect us from those who would harm us. Well, as directors, we've been given the right, the mandate, and the responsibility to be that cop. Each of us needs to pin on and proudly wear our moral leadership badges so that people will know there is a corporate cop in our boardrooms, in the businesses we represent, and in our communities. And like the cop on the corner, we are not going to tolerate any misbehavior or wrongdoing. The Bible says, "For everyone to whom much is given, of him shall much be required." As directors, we are required now more than at any time in our history to be the beacons for ethical leadership in our businesses and in society. We need to stand up for what we believe, take stands that reflect who we are, and speak out against things that we don't think are right. What allowed the corruption on Wall Street and in our boardrooms and businesses to occur, and what allows unreported wrongdoing to continue, is fear-based silence and complacency. Speaking out against greed and corporate wrongdoing takes guts. It takes moral courage to speak out, but it is our moral duty to do so. The reformation of our businesses will also require that as directors we lead the challenge to redefine success in more wholesome terms. For instance, under a new understanding of accounting, we would not call it progress if we gained in wealth but lost in relationship. We would not call it achievement if we improved in a state but injured the psyche. And we would not call it profitable if we achieved a promotion but sacrificed spiritual integrity in the process. I will end my comments with another piece of scripture that says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Well, where is your heart tonight? And where are the hearts of the businesses you serve as directors and leaders? Are they wrapped around your wallets in your pursuit of power, money, and extravagance? An old Chinese proverb says, "A fish rots from the head down." Well, as directors, we are the head. And if we don't provide the leadership to reform our business and society, and to redefine success in more wholesome terms that include family, community, church, schools, honesty, integrity, and a caring about all stakeholders, we will continue the rotting until capitalism is dead. And we will condemn our children and our grandchildren to a future of global agony and to civilized society. It's a choice facing everyone in this room this evening, and it's a choice facing all of the boards on which we serve as directors. I'm honored to have been selected for this award, and I would be equally honored to have you join with me as fellow corporate cops in speaking out against those who threaten the survival of our free market system through self-indulgences and greed. Thanks for listening and allowing me to speak out this evening. Thank you.